Lisa Moore stood in the center of the massive chamber, feeling very small. The Galactic Council station stretched out around her like a city built inside a moon. Thousands of alien beings filled the curved seats that rose up in circles around her. Some floated in the air, glowing with their own light. Others were so big they made the floor shake when they moved. A few looked almost human, but their eyes held the wisdom of species that had traveled the stars for millions of years. She took a deep breath and looked down at the data pad in her hands. 3 years of work had led to this moment. 3 years of studying alien languages, learning about different cultures, and preparing humanity's case for joining the Interstellar Alliance. At 28, she was the youngest person ever chosen as Earth's representative. Her background in studying alien life and behavior had made her the perfect choice, or so they had told her back on Earth. Now, surrounded by beings who could probably destroy her home planet with a thought, she wasn't so sure. The human wishes to speak, announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Lisa looked up to see Ambassador Krex floating near the center of the chamber. The Zephyrian looked like a jellyfish made of pure energy, with tentacles that sparked with electricity. How amusing! Please, little creature, tell us why your primitive species believes it deserves a place among the stars. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not cruel laughter, exactly, but the kind adults might make when a child says something cute and foolish. Lisa felt her cheeks burn, but she kept her voice steady. "Honored members of the Council," she began. Her words translated instantly into hundreds of different languages by the station's computers. Humanity requests membership in the Interstellar Alliance. We know we are young compared to your great civilizations. We have only recently learned to travel between stars. But we believe we have something unique to offer. Unique! The voice boomed from across the chamber. General Thane of the Goliath Empire rose from his seat, and Lisa had to crane her neck to see him. He stood 12 feet tall, with skin that looked like black metal armor. His people had conquered 17 star systems through pure strength. What could humans possibly offer that we do not already possess? Lisa pulled up her first presentation on the holographic display. Images of Earth appeared in the air, cities, forests, oceans, and people working together. We offer our perspective, our way of solving problems. Your way? Shimmer of stars, the Vor3 representative, pulsed with colors that hurt to look at. The crystalline being's voice chimed like wind through crystal caves. You have no psychic abilities, no energy manipulation. Your technology is barely advanced enough to reach your neighboring planets. What problems could you possibly solve that we cannot? More laughter filled the chamber. Lisa pressed on, showing images of human achievements, art, music, scientific discoveries, acts of compassion, and cooperation between different groups of people. We think differently, she said. We approach challenges from angles that might not occur to others. On Earth, we have a saying, sometimes you need to think outside the box. We believe that diversity of thought and approach makes everyone stronger. Diversity? Ambassador Krex's energy tendrils waved in what Lisa had learned was the Zephyrian equivalent of dismissive laughter. Child, we have over 2,000 species in this alliance. We have beings of pure energy and creatures of living crystal. We have hive minds and individual consciousnesses. We have species that see through time and others that can reshape matter with their thoughts. What diversity could your monkeys possibly add? The word monkeys hit Lisa like a physical blow. Around the chamber, various aliens made sounds that their translators turned into laughter, scorn, and dismissal. A few even projected feelings of amusement directly into her mind, at least the ones that could tell her mind was even there. General Thane stood again, his voice carrying easily across the vast space. The Goliath Empire has evaluated human military capability. Your strongest warriors could not defeat one of our younglings. Your weapons are crude metal projectiles and chemical explosives. You have no energy shields, no matter disruptors, no reality-bending technology. You are not even suitable as laborers for the Alliance. You break too easily. The humans cannot even perceive the psychic plane, added another voice from somewhere in the upper tiers. How can they hope to communicate with half the species in this galaxy? They are deaf and blind to the very forces that bind civilizations together. Lisa felt the weight of their dismissal pressing down on her. Every argument she had prepared, every achievement humanity was proud of, seemed pathetic compared to what surrounded her. Species that could travel faster than light before humans had learned to make fire. Beings that could read thoughts, manipulate energy, and reshape reality itself. But she remembered why she had volunteered for this mission. Not because she thought it would be easy, but because someone had to try. Someone had to stand up and say that humanity deserved a chance. "You're right," she said quietly, and the laughter began to die down as being strained to hear her words. "We can't read minds. We can't bend reality. We don't have energy bodies or crystal forms or armor for skin. But we survived on a world that tried to kill us every day, with predators and diseases and natural disasters. We not only survived, but thrived. We learned to cooperate across vast differences. We learned to solve problems not with power, but with creativity and determination." "And what has that determination earned you?" General Thane asked, his tone almost pitying now. "A few metal ships that can barely reach the next star? Weapons that would not scratch our armor? The ability to think in ways that no other species finds useful?" "Maybe," Lisa said, "but maybe someday that different way of thinking will matter. Maybe someday you'll face a problem that can't be solved with psychic power or advanced technology or physical strength. Maybe someday you'll need someone who thinks like we do." The laughter that followed was louder than before. Some beings actually applauded at what they saw as naive optimism. Ambassador Krex's energy form pulsed with amusement. "Oh, little human," he said, his voice carrying false kindness. "If such a day ever comes, if the combined might of 2,000 advanced species ever proves insufficient, then we will surely remember your words. But until that impossible day arrives, I suggest your species focus on learning to walk before attempting to run with giants." The vote was called immediately. No discussion, no debate, no consideration of Earth's application. 2,000 species voted, and 2,000 votes came back negative. The holographic display showed the results in numbers too large for Lisa to fully process. But the message was clear. Humanity was rejected. "Return to your small world, young human," General Thane said, his voice now bored rather than hostile. "Return in a few thousand years, when your species has evolved beyond its current limitations. Perhaps then you will have something to offer beings such as ourselves." Lisa gathered her materials and walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. Behind her, the council had already moved on to other business, dismissing humanity as easily as swatting away an insect. But as she reached the door, she turned back one last time. The thousands of alien beings looked magnificent in their power and wisdom, secure in their advanced civilizations and incredible abilities. She wondered if they would still look so magnificent when they needed help from someone who thought differently than they did. 3 months after the humiliation at the Galactic Council, Lisa found herself crawling through a tunnel that had been sealed for millions of years. The air tasted of dust and something else, something old and forgotten that made her skin crawl. Her helmet light cut through the darkness ahead, revealing walls covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. "Are you sure this is safe?" she called back to Dr. Jake Coleman, who was struggling to the narrow passage behind her. "Define safe," Jake replied, his breathing heavy in the thin air. "We're exploring ruins left by a species that died out before humans evolved, on a planet where nothing has lived for eons. Safe isn't really part of the job description." Lisa had joined Jake's archaeological team after taking leave from the diplomatic service. She couldn't face return to Earth with news of humanity's rejection, and the chance to study the ancients offered a welcome distraction. The ancients were a mystery that had puzzled scientists for centuries. They had built incredible cities across dozens of worlds, developed technology that made current galactic civilizations look primitive, and then simply vanished without explanation. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber that took Lisa's breath away. Her light couldn't reach the ceiling, but the walls were covered floor to ceiling with carved symbols that glowed faintly in the darkness. Each symbol was perfectly preserved, as if they'd been carved yesterday instead of millions of years ago. "Jake, you need to see this," she whispered into her radio. Soon the entire team had gathered in the chamber. Amy Walsh, their linguist, was already taking photos of the symbols with equipment that could capture details invisible to human eyes. Ryan Brooks, their tech specialist, was setting up lights and scanning equipment. "These symbols are different from anything we found before," Amy said, her voice filled with excitement. "Look at this section here. The writing style changes, like they were in a hurry. And these symbols, they keep repeating, the same words over and over." "What words?" Lisa asked. Amy frowned at her scanner. "It's hard to translate. The closest I can get is hunger and darkness, and the one who devours. There's another phrase that keeps coming up, the silent mind that thinks in patterns unknown." Jake was examining another section of the wall. "Over here, they're showing some kind of battle. Look at these images." He pointed to carved pictures that showed figures fighting against something that looked like a shifting shadow. The ancients were warriors. This whole chamber might be some kind of war memorial. Lisa moved to a section of wall that felt different somehow. The symbols here were deeper, carved with more force. "Amy, what does this part say?" Amy brought her scanner over and studied the markings. Her face went pale. "It's a warning. It says, the devourer returns when the stars align in configuration of endings. It cannot be stopped by weapons or shields or power. It feeds on the essence of life itself, growing stronger with each mind it consumes. Only the silent mind that thinks in patterns unknown can stand against the hunger that devours all." "The devourer," Ryan said, looking up from his equipment. "That doesn't sound good." Amy continued translating, her voice growing more worried with each word. "It describes this thing as a creature of pure hunger that feeds on the life force of entire worlds. The ancients fought it with everything they had. Weapons that could crack planets, energy shields that could protect entire star systems, technology that we can't even imagine. None of it worked. Then how did they stop it?" Lisa asked. "They didn't." Amy's voice was barely a whisper. "According to this, they managed to imprison it somehow, but the effort destroyed their entire civilization. Every ancient died to lock this thing away." Jake laughed, but it sounded forced. "Come on, Amy. This is mythology. Ancient civilizations always had stories about cosmic monsters and world eaters. It's probably just their version of dragon or a boogeyman." But Lisa was studying another section of the wall. "Amy, these symbols here. They look like star maps." Amy came over and examined the markings. "You're right. These are astronomical positions. And this is a date system. Ryan, can you run these numbers through the navigation computer?" Ryan connected his scanner to the team's navigation system and started entering the star positions shown in the carvings. The computer worked for several minutes, comparing the ancient star maps to current astronomical data. The results made everyone go quiet. "According to this," Ryan said slowly, "the star configuration shown in these carvings will occur in approximately 5 months and 12 days. The computer calls it an extremely rare alignment that only happens once every few million years." Amy was still translating, her hands shaking slightly. "The warning says the alignment will weaken the prison. The devourer will begin to break free when the stars move into these positions." "This is ancient superstition," Jake insisted. "We're scientists. We don't panic over million-year-old ghost stories." Lisa wasn't so sure. The ancients had been incredibly advanced. Their technology was so far ahead of current galactic civilizations that most of their devices couldn't even be understood, much less copied. If they had taken the time to carve warnings about something called the Devourer, maybe those warnings should be taken seriously. Her thoughts were interrupted by Ryan's scanner beeping urgently. "I'm picking up massive energy readings from across the galaxy," he said, his face pale as he read the data. "Multiple star systems are going dark. The readings they're unlike anything in our databases." Amy grabbed her translator and started working frantically on the final section of symbols. "There's more here. It says a devourer will announce its return by feeding on the most psychically active worlds first. It prefers minds that burn bright with mental energy." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. The most psychically active species in the galaxy were the Zephyrians, beings of pure mental energy who lived in the system's Ryan scanner, said were going dark. "We need to contact the Galactic Council," she said. "We need to warn them." "Warn them about what?" Jake asked, that an ancient monster is breaking out of prison based on carvings in a ruin? They'll laugh at us even harder than they laughed at your membership application. But even as he spoke, more systems appeared on Ryan's scanner as dead zones. The energy signatures were spreading across the galaxy like a plague, moving from one star system to another with terrifying speed. Lisa looked back at the carved warning on the wall. The ancients had died trying to stop something called the Devourer. Now it was breaking free, and the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy had no idea what was coming for them. She thought about the council members who had dismissed humanity so casually. Ambassador Krex with his energy form, Shimmer of Stars with her crystal body, General Thane with his unshakable confidence in superior firepower. They all had psychic abilities. They all burned bright with the kind of mental energy the warnings said the Devourer preferred. "Amy," she said quietly, "read me that part about the silent mind again." Amy found the passage and translated it carefully. Only the silent mind that thinks in patterns unknown can stand against a hunger that devours all. The mind that does not shine with inner fire, that walks in darkness invisible to the great hunger. Lisa thought about the Council's dismissal of humanity. No psychic abilities, no energy manipulation, minds that other species found difficult or impossible to read, mental patterns that seemed alien even to advanced civilizations, minds that were silent to psychic senses, minds that thought in patterns unknown. For the first time since the humiliation at the Council, Lisa smiled. The galaxy had laughed at humanity for being different. They had mocked humans for lacking the mental abilities that every other species took for granted. Maybe, just maybe, that difference was about to become very important. Ryan's scanner beeped again, showing more star systems going dark. Whatever the Devourer was, it was moving fast and growing stronger. Soon it would encounter the major civilizations that had so confidently rejected humanity's application for membership. Lisa wondered if they would still be laughing when they discovered that their greatest strength might be their greatest weakness. The emergency broadcast reached the archaeological team just as they were preparing to leave Terminus Prime. Lisa watched the holographic display with growing horror as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Entire star systems had gone silent in a matter of hours, their billions of inhabitants simply vanishing without a trace. The first major loss was the Zephyrian home system. Ambassador Krex's people, beings of pure psychic energy who had existed for millions of years, had been wiped out in minutes. The few survivors who escaped described something beyond imagination, a vast darkness that had swept through their worlds, leaving behind only empty space where once thriving civilizations had existed. "It's real," Amy whispered, her face pale as she watched the reports. "The Devourer is real, and it's exactly what the ancient warnings described." Jake was no longer dismissing the warnings as mythology. The evidence was impossible to ignore. "We need to contact Earth immediately. Humanity needs to know what's coming." But Lisa was already thinking bigger. Not just Earth, the Galactic Council. They need to understand what they're facing. The team's research ship Pathfinder raced toward the galactic core, where the Council was mobilizing the largest fleet in recorded history. Every major civilization was contributing ships and warriors. The Goliath Empire had deployed their entire battle fleet, led by General Thane himself. The Vorthree had brought reality-bending weapons that could tear holes in space itself. Dozens of other species contributed technology and firepower that should have been able to destroy planets. As Pathfinder approached the staging area, Lisa saw the assembled fleet through the ship's view screen. Thousands of vessels filled the space around a dozen star systems. Some ships were the size of cities, bristling with weapons that could crack moons in half. Others were sleek and elegant, powered by forces that bent the laws of physics. A few existed partially outside normal space, flickering in and out of reality as their crews prepared for battle. "It's magnificent," Ryan breathed, staring at the display. The combined might of 2,000 species. Surely nothing could stand against this. Lisa remembered the ancient warnings and wasn't so sure. The ancients had been more advanced than any current civilization, and they had still lost everything fighting the Devourer. The team was granted permission to observe from a command ship, a massive Goliath vessel called Eternal Victory. General Thane met them personally, his 12-foot frame towering over the humans. His attitude had changed since the council meeting. Where before he had been dismissive, now he was grimly respectful. "Your people discovered the warnings," he said, his voice like grinding stone. "The council wishes to hear what the ancients said about defeating this enemy." Lisa shared everything they had learned, but she could see the disappointment on the alien faces around her when she described the warnings about conventional weapons being useless. These were beings who had solved every problem with superior firepower, advanced technology, or psychic abilities. The idea that their greatest strengths might be meaningless was almost impossible for them to accept. The ancients were defeatists, General Thane declared. They gave up too easily. We have weapons they never dreamed of, ships that can survive the birth of stars, warriors who have never known defeat. This devourer will learn the meaning of true power. The battle began near the Rigel system, where long-range sensors had detected the devourer's approach. Lisa watched from the command bridge as thousands of ships moved into attack formation. The coordination was perfect, the result of millions of years of military evolution across countless species. Then they saw their enemy. The devourer appeared as a writhing mass of darkness that seemed to absorb light itself. It was larger than any moon, larger than some planets, and it moved through space like a living thing. Tentacles of pure shadow reached out from its core, each one stretching for thousands of miles. Where the tentacles touched empty space, stars seemed to dim, as if the creature was feeding on the very energy of the universe. "All ships, attack formation," General Thane commanded. "Target the center mass. Full power to all weapons." The fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams that could melt asteroids struck the devourer's surface. Quantum torpedoes that could destroy entire fleets exploded against its hide. Reality-warping weapons tried to erase it from existence. For a moment, Lisa dared a hope. The combined assault was incredible to watch, a light show of destruction that lit up half the solar system. Surely nothing could survive such overwhelming firepower. But as the weapons fire died down, the devourer remained. Not only remained, but had grown larger. Every energy beam it absorbed made it stronger. Every explosion fed its hunger. The quantum weapons and reality benders had simply been devoured like everything else. "Impossible," General Thane breathed. "Our weapons should have vaporized 100 worlds." The devourer's response was swift and terrible. Psychic tentacles lashed out across the battle zone, reaching for the fleet's ships. Where they touched, vessels simply stopped existing, not destroyed or blown apart, but absorbed entirely, ships, crews, and all trace that they had ever been. The psychic assault was even worse. A voice echoed across every mind in the fleet, a sound like the screaming of dying galaxies. "Your thoughts are sweet. Your minds burn bright with life. I will taste every memory, every dream, every fear. All mine shall feed my hunger." Lisa watched in horror as the proud warriors of the galaxy discovered that their greatest strengths were useless. The Vorthri's reality-bending abilities made them more visible to the devourer, easier to target. The psychic species found their mental powers turned against them, their own abilities becoming conduits for the creature's hunger. General Thane led his personal guard in a direct assault, their massive battle armor gleaming as they fired weapons that should have cracked the Earth's crust. Lisa saw the proud Goliath warrior charge directly at one of the creature's tentacles, roaring defiance even as the darkness reached for him. The transformation was instant and terrible. General Thane's armor cracked and fell away. His massive frame shrank as his life force was drained. The proud warrior who had dismissed humanity as too weak to serve his labors was reduced to an empty shell in seconds, his strength and were consumed like morning mist. "All ships retreat," came the panicked order from what remained the command structure. "Fall back to secondary positions." But retreat was impossible. The devourer moved faster than the fleeing ships, its tentacles reaching across impossible distances to snare more victims. Entire battle groups vanished in moments. The greatest fleet in galactic history was being devoured like insects caught in a spider's web. Only a handful of ships escaped the massacre, Pathfinder among them. Lisa watched through the rear view screen as the devourer continued to grow, now fed by the life force of millions of the galaxy's finest warriors. The creature's psychic voice followed them as they fled. "Run, little morsels. Spread word of my return. Let all worlds know that their time has come. Soon I shall feast upon the thoughts of every living mind, and the universe will know silence at last. As Pathfinder limped away from the battle zone, Lisa thought about the ancient warnings. Weapons were useless. Shields meant nothing. Power and technology and psychic abilities only made the Devourers stronger. But there was still one thing mentioned in the warnings that hadn't been tried. One type of mind that the ancients claimed could stand against a great hunger. The silent mind that thinks in patterns unknown. Lisa looked around at her human teammates, Jake, Amy, and Ryan. They had watched the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy fail completely against the Devourer. Species with technology beyond imagination, warriors who had conquered star systems, beings of pure energy and living crystal. All of them had psychic abilities. All of them thought in ways a Devourer could understand and consume. But humans were different. Humans thought in patterns that even advanced civilizations found strange. Humans had minds that were invisible to psychic senses, thoughts that generated no mental energy for creatures like the Devourer to feed upon. For the first time since the disaster began, Lisa felt something that wasn't fear. She felt hope. The galaxy had laughed at humanity for being different. Now, that difference might be the only thing that could save them all. Lisa worked through the night, her eyes burning as she studied the ancient text by the dim light of Pathfinder's emergency power systems. Outside, the galaxy was dying. 7 more star systems had gone dark while she translated symbols, each one representing billions of lives consumed by the Devourer's endless hunger. Amy sat beside her, their translation equipment spread across the small research table. "There has to be something we missed," Amy said, her voice hoarse from hours of work. "Some weapon the ancients used, some technology we haven't found yet." But Lisa was beginning to understand that they were looking at the problem wrong. "Amy, read me that passage again. The one about the silent mind." Amy pulled up the translation on her screen. "The silent mind that thinks in patterns unknown, that walks in darkness invisible to the great hunger, that speaks in languages a Devourer cannot taste or comprehend." Languages, Lisa said thoughtfully. Not just one language, but languages plural. And patterns unknown, not necessarily better or more advanced patterns, just unknown ones. Jake looked up from the communications console where he had been trying to reach Earth. "The emergency broadcasts are getting worse. The Devourer has consumed the Centauri Alliance, the Vega Collective, and most of the Outer Rim territories. Nothing can slow it down." Ryan was monitoring long-range sensors. "It's not random," he said. "The thing is moving in a pattern, hitting the most psychically active systems first. The Zephyrians were pure mental energy, so they went first, then the telepathic union worlds, then the psionic council systems." Lisa felt the pieces clicking together in her mind. It's feeding on psychic energy. That's why conventional weapons don't work. They just add more energy for it to absorb. That's why shields are useless. They're powered by the same forces it feeds on. "So how do we fight something that gets stronger every time we attack it?" Jake asked. Lisa pointed to the ancient text. "We don't fight it. Look at this word here." Amy translated it as stand against, but the root meaning is closer to resist or withstand. The ancients weren't talking about defeating the Devourer in battle. They were talking about surviving its hunger. Amy leaned closer to study the symbols. "You're right. This passage isn't about weapons or tactics. It's about immunity. The silent mind doesn't fight the Devourer. It's invisible to the Devourer." "But what does that mean in practical terms?" Ryan asked. "How can a mind be invisible to something that feeds on minds?" Lisa thought about her experience at the Galactic Council. Every alien species they had encountered could read thoughts to some degree, could sense the psychic emanations that minds naturally produced. Except humans. Humans were blank spots in the psychic landscape, minds that thought without generating the mental energy other species took for granted. She pulled up her communication system and sent an urgent message to Earth, to Admiral Kate Morrison of the Human Space Fleet. The message was simple. The galaxy needs humanity. We may be the only species that can survive what's coming. The response came back within hours. Admiral Morrison's weathered face appeared on the communication screen, her gray hair pulled back in a regulation bun. "Lisa, I got your message." Earth has been monitoring the situation. The reports we're getting, is it really as bad as it seems? Worse, Lisa said. Every advanced civilization in the galaxy has tried to stop this thing. Nothing works. Their weapons make it stronger. Their shields are useless. Their psychic abilities turn them into targets. And you think humans can do better? Lisa took a deep breath. I think humans can do something no other species can do. We can be invisible to it. Admiral, every other species in the galaxy has psychic abilities. They think in ways that produce mental energy. The Devourer feeds on that energy. But humans are psychic blanks, Admiral Morrison finished. We've always known we were different. Command has studied the reports from your diplomatic mission. Other species find our thought patterns strange, unpredictable. Not just strange, undetectable. Admiral, I think human minds might be completely invisible to the Devourer. If I'm right, we might be able to get close to it without being detected. Admiral Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Even if you're right, Lisa, what could we do? Our weapons are primitive compared to what the galactic fleets were using. If their advanced technology couldn't hurt this thing, what hope do our ships have? Lisa had been thinking about that too. Their weapons all use energy, the same type of energy the Devourer feeds on. But our weapons are different. Kinetic projectiles, chemical explosives, nuclear fission, instead of exotic matter reactions. Maybe those would work because they're not the type of energy it can absorb. It's a hell of a risk, Admiral Morrison said. You're asking me to send the entire human fleet against something that just destroyed the combined might of 2,000 species. I'm asking you to try something no one else can try. If I'm wrong, humanity dies with the rest of the galaxy anyway. But if I'm right, Admiral Morrison nodded slowly. If you're right, we might be the only hope left. I'll mobilize the fleet. Our best ships, our most experienced crews. But, Lisa, I want you to understand, we're not a military powerhouse. We have 500 ships, maybe 600 if we count the research vessels. Most of them were built for exploration, not warfare. 500 ships crewed by minds the enemy can't see, Lisa said. That might be worth more than 5,000 ships it can detect and devour. The fleet assembled at the edge of human space took 3 days to organize. Lisa watched from the bridge of the flagship Redemption as ships arrived from Earth, Mars, the Jupiter colonies, and the outer research stations. They weren't impressive by galactic standards, metal hulls instead of energy constructs, fusion drives instead of reality-bending propulsion systems, weapons that relied on old-fashioned physics instead of exotic forces. Captain Steve Parker welcomed Lisa aboard his ship with a grim smile. So we're humanity's last hope against a cosmic horror that eats galaxies for breakfast? Something like that, Lisa replied. Steve, I need you to understand what we're facing. This thing has consumed billions of the most advanced beings in the galaxy. It's larger than a planet, and it feeds on the life force of entire worlds. And we're going to fight it with nuclear missiles and rail guns? We're going to try something different. Every other species that fought it used energy weapons. The same type of energy it feeds on, but our weapons work differently. Kinetic force, chemical reactions, nuclear fission. Maybe those won't make it stronger. Captain Parker looked out at the human fleet assembling around them. 500 ships against something that destroyed millions. I've faced worse odds. Lisa doubted that was true, but she appreciated his confidence. As Redemption led the fleet toward the galactic core, she studied the reports from the disaster zone. The Devourer had grown to the size of a small moon after consuming the galactic fleet. It was moving systematically through inhabited systems, growing larger with each world it devoured. But something in the reports gave her hope. The creature always attacked psychically active targets first, the beings with the strongest mental emanations. It seemed to be drawn to minds that burned bright with psychic energy, which meant it might not even notice minds that produced no psychic signature at all. As they approached the Devourer's last known position, Lisa thought about the ancient warnings one more time. The silent mind that thinks in patterns unknown. Not stronger patterns or better patterns, just different ones. Patterns that didn't fit the normal psychic template that every other species shared. Human patterns. Human thoughts. Human minds that worked in ways that even advanced galactic civilizations found incomprehensible. The galaxy had mocked humanity for being different. Now that difference was about to be put to the ultimate test. Through the view screen, she could see the debris field from the destroyed galactic fleet. Millions of ships reduced to twisted metal and fading energy signatures. And beyond the wreckage, a darkness that hurt to look at directly, growing larger as it fed on the remnants of the galaxy's greatest warriors. The Devourer was waiting. The Devourer had grown since the last battle. What had once been the size of a large moon was now the size of a planet, its writhing mass of darkness spreading tendrils across thousands of miles of space. Lisa watched it through Redemption's view screen as the human fleet approached, and felt her courage waver. The thing was impossibly vast, a living void that seemed to absorb light itself. All ships, maintain formation, Captain Parker commanded. Stay close, but not too close. We don't know how far its reach extends. Around them, the debris of the galactic fleet painted a grim picture of what happened to those who challenged the Devourer. Fragments of Goliath battle cruisers drifted past like broken toys. The crystalline remains of Vorthree reality ships sparkled in the starlight, their reality-bending technology, now nothing more than pretty shards. Even the energy signatures of destroyed Zephyrian vessels could still be detected, faint ghosts of beings who had once been pure thought. Contact. Ryan reported from the sensor station. It's noticed us. The Devourer's psychic voice boomed across space, a sound that seemed to come from inside their own minds. More food comes willingly. I taste your fear, little creatures. Your terror is sweet, but your life essence will be sweeter still. Lisa held her breath. This was a test. If human minds generated psychic energy like every other species, they would be detected immediately. The Devourer would read their thoughts, feed on their mental emanations, and humanity's last hope would die before it began. But something strange happened. The creature's voice continued. Strange. I sense your ships, but not your minds. Are you some form of artificial intelligence? Mechanical beings with no life force to offer? Lisa felt a surge of hope. It couldn't see them. The Devourer could detect their ships through normal sensors, but human thoughts were completely invisible to its psychic perception. All ships, begin attack pattern Alpha, Captain Parker ordered. Target the central mass. Nuclear missiles and rail guns only, no energy weapons. The human fleet opened fire with weapons that would have seemed primitive to the galactic civilizations. Nuclear warheads detonated against the creature's surface in brilliant flashes of fusion fire. Rail guns fired metal projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed, striking with pure kinetic force. Chemical explosive torpedoes added their own small contributions to the assault. For the first time since the Devourer had awakened, something actually hurt it. The creature's roar of pain and surprise shook space itself. Where the nuclear weapon struck, pieces of its dark mass were actually blown away, dissipating into space like smoke. The railgun projectiles punched clean through its outer layers, each one tearing holes that bled strange energies. Impossible! The Devourer's voice thundered. What manner of beings are you? Your weapons carry no energy for me to absorb. They are crude matter and force, nothing more. That's the point, Lisa whispered. But even as the human weapons damaged the creature, she could see it beginning to adapt. The holes blown in its surface were healing, the damaged sections regenerating. It was still massive beyond comprehension, and humanity's small fleet was like insects attacking a whale. Lisa, Captain Parker said, we're hurting it, but not enough. At this rate, it will heal faster than we can damage it. Lisa had been expecting this. The ancient warnings had been clear. Defeating the Devourer wasn't about weapons or firepower. It was about understanding. She looked at the specially modified shuttle in Redemption's launch bay and made her decision. I'm going in, she said. Absolutely not, Captain Parker replied. That thing is the size of a planet. What could one person possibly accomplish? The ancients said the silent mind could stand against it. Not a silent fleet or silent weapons, a silent mind. One person who thinks in patterns it cannot understand or consume. Before anyone could stop her, Lisa was running toward the launch bay. Behind her, she could hear Captain Parker shouting orders, but she was already climbing into the shuttle. The small craft was equipped with the most powerful engines humanity could build and a full load of nuclear missiles, enough firepower to level a city. She launched while the battle raged around her, guiding the tiny shuttle through the chaos of fleet engagement. Nuclear fire lit up space as human ships continued their attack, but the Devourer was starting to fight back now. Tentacles of pure darkness reached for the human vessels, confused by their inability to drain the crews, but still capable of crushing metal hulls. Lisa's shuttle was so small that the creature didn't notice at first. She flew directly toward the central mass, dodging tentacles the size of skyscrapers, weaving between attacks that could have vaporized her craft instantly. "What are you doing, little insect?" The Devourer's voice followed her as she approached its core. "Your mind is still hidden from me, but your ship I can see. I will crush you like all the others." A massive tentacle swung toward her shuttle, moving faster than anything that large had a right to move. Lisa barely avoided it, using her ship's small size and maneuverability to stay ahead of the creature's attacks. But she was running out of time and space to dodge. Then she was inside. The shuttle punched through the creature's outer layer and found itself in a space that defied description. Lisa's instruments went crazy as she flew through what looked like the inside of a living galaxy. Streams of consumed energy flowed around her like rivers of light, the life force of billions of beings the Devourer had absorbed over millions of years. At the center of it all was a core of absolute darkness, but not empty darkness. This was darkness that pulsed with intelligence, with terrible awareness, with a hunger that had been growing for eons. "You dare enter my essence!" The Devourer's voice was all around her now. "I will tear apart your little ship and find whatever manner of mind you possess." But when the creature reached for Lisa's thoughts, something unprecedented happened. For the first time in millions of years, the Devourer encountered a mind it could not touch, could not read, could not understand. Human thoughts flowed in patterns completely alien to every other form of consciousness in the galaxy. Where psychic species thought in flowing streams of mental energy, humans thought in discrete logical steps. Where energy beings experience consciousness as a continuous flow, humans process information in binary patterns of yes and no, true and false, cause and effect. What are you?" The Devourer's voice was confused now, almost afraid. "Your mind makes no sense. Your thoughts follow patterns I cannot comprehend." Lisa realized this was her moment, not to attack, not to destroy, but to communicate. She opened her mind as much as she could, letting her human thought patterns flow freely. Mathematical concepts, logical frameworks, scientific theories. All the ways humans understood the universe through structure and reason rather than psychic intuition. For the Devourer, it was like hearing silence after eons of screaming. "Quiet," it whispered, and for the first time its voice carried wonder instead of hunger. "Your mind is quiet. No psychic noise, no burning emanations of thought and emotion. Just patterns. Cool, mathematical patterns that speak without speaking." Lisa understood then what the ancients had tried to tell her. The Devourer wasn't evil, it was in pain. For millions of years, it had been surrounded by the psychic noise of countless civilizations, their thoughts and emotions creating a constant screaming in its consciousness. Feeding on other minds was the only way it knew to find moments of peace, but each consumed mind only added to the noise. Using her completely non-psychic human mind, Lisa began to communicate through pure mathematical concepts. She showed the Devourer equations that described harmony and balance, geometric patterns that represented peace and order, numerical sequences that conveyed the concept of silence and rest. The transformation was immediate and profound. The creature's rage dissolved as it experienced true quiet for the first time since its awakening. The constant psychic screaming that had driven it to madness finally stopped. "Silence!" the Devourer whispered, its voice now filled with something like gratitude. "After so long, silence. Your mind thinks in patterns that make no psychic sound. You have given me the peace I have sought for eons." The massive creature began to shrink, releasing the absorbed energy of countless worlds back into space. Star systems that had gone dark began to flicker back to life as their stolen essence returned. The consumed life force of billions of beings flowed back to where it belonged, restoring what had been lost. In a moment that would be remembered throughout galactic history, the most powerful entity in the universe, The cosmic horror that had terrorized civilizations across millions of years slowly lowered itself before Lisa's tiny shuttle in a gesture of profound respect. The Devourer knelt. From her shuttle, Lisa watched in amazement as the creature continued to release its stolen power. General Thane materialized on the bridge of a nearby Goliath ship, restored to life along with millions of other beings. The Zephyrian energy forms began to reappear in space. Their consciousness returned from the void. "Thank you," the Devourer said, its voice now gentle and filled with peace. "You have given me the greatest gift possible. Silence in a universe full of noise. I will trouble the galaxy no more." The creature began to move away from the inhabited regions, heading for the empty spaces between galaxies where it could rest in the quiet darkness. But before it left, it sent one final message to Lisa's mind, not through psychic contact, which would have been impossible, but through the mathematical harmonies she had taught it. The message was simple: gratitude. Lisa guided her shuttle back to redemption through a galaxy that was coming back to life. Around her, the human fleet maintained their positions, but there was no longer any need to fight. The impossible had happened. Humanity had not only survived an encounter with the Devourer, but had given it exactly what it needed to find peace. As she docked with the flagship, Lisa thought about the long journey that had brought them to this moment. From a humiliation at the Galactic Council to the discovery of the ancient warnings, from the terror of watching the galaxy's finest warriors fail to the desperate gamble of sending humanity's small fleet against an impossible enemy. The galaxy had laughed at humans for being different. They had mocked humanity for lacking the psychic abilities that every other species took for granted. They had dismissed human minds as primitive and strange. Now those same alien civilizations owed their lives to the very difference they had scorned. The silent minds that thought in patterns unknown had done what no advanced technology or powerful weapon could accomplish. They had brought peace to a creature that had known only hunger and pain for millions of years. Lisa smiled as Redemption's docking bay doors closed behind her shuttle. Humanity had finally found its place in the galaxy, not through strength or superior technology, but through the simple gift of being different in exactly the right way.